Welcome to the Money Over 50 podcast, brought to you by Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue from Money Over 50 Financial Advisors. This information is general in nature and does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. Therefore, you should consider whether the information is appropriate for you and your personal circumstances. If you require personal advice, please contact Money Over 50 Financial Advisors. Here are your hosts, Dallas Davison and Michael Hogue.
Welcome to Money Over 50 with Dallas and Michael. Today we're here to talk about poor health decisions versus poor financial decisions. Dallas.
Thanks, Michael. This is one of the topics that I have to give a bit of credit to my father-in-law for here. We often find ourselves having these philosophical discussions about, he's a lawyer and has been a lawyer for 40 years, and we end up talking about different situations that you come across as a professional and comparing different professions and the interaction with clients and those sorts of things. And so he's a personal injury lawyer, as is my wife, actually. And we're talking about medical negligence claims. And so where health professionals have either made a wrong diagnosis or done something wrong or made a mistake or made an error. And it can sometimes be a bit of a grey area as to whether the professional or whether the doctor is in the wrong there. But what we got talking about was that it's very black and white. It's a grey area as to whether the professional is in the wrong, but it's very black and white as to whether the outcome is good or bad. So what happens is you go in for a surgery to get your knee fixed. You either have a fixed knee or you don't. If in 6 months' time you still can't walk, that's gone wrong. Now,
if you come out with the
wrong
knee replaced,
which if ever you've had a knee surgery, they ask you about 65 times. Yeah, we're operating your right knee today. Your right knee today. Yes, right knee today. So that's why it's that's the oldest one in the book, the old med-neg claim, where they've operated on the wrong knee, or you've gone in for a knee recon and you've come out with the shoulder done or something like that. So it's. This is probably one of those, you talk about podcasts that are like the SBS movie that just sort of drifts off halfway through and there's no end in sight. I don't really know what I mean by this. I just thought it was very interesting, the difference between if you make a health decision, you make a decision about your health. In some capacities, there's a longer feedback loop, but generally you have pretty quick knowledge of, you eat something that's not good for you, you generally feel pretty ordinary pretty quickly, or You've got a sore knee, you try something to fix it, the pain either goes away or it doesn't. You've got a very quick feedback loop of that decision was good or bad, I should do more of that or less of that. You go on Christmas holidays and you eat and drink for 10 days straight and you get back on the scales. There's a very quick feedback loop where you go, hang on, this isn't going in the right direction. What I think is very hard for people with financial decisions is that the impact of a lot of these decisions isn't felt in the short term. It's not for 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 years before we really notice the impact of some of the things we've done. And so that's and as anyone who's sort of studied the decision making and our ability to develop intuitions about those decisions, the reason why it's very hard for human beings to make intuitive good financial decisions is because the feedback loop is so removed. I make a decision now. I then have a negative outcome in 10 years' time. And it's like, it'd be like if your dog did the wrong thing and then you roused it in 6 months' time. And the dog's going, what was that for? So we make a decision now, then something goes wrong in 5 years' time. We're not hardwired. Our brain, our instinctive lizard brain, isn't good at putting that together. We really have to focus on flowing that back through and going, this negative outcome has happened now. And why is that? Is it because of the thing that happened yesterday, or is it actually a choice that I made 5 years ago that has caused that issue? And that's, I don't really, other than to really think that through and to try and think it through in advance, I don't know the answer to that. But I guess the takeaway for me for a lot of these things today is probably to be aware of that and the fact that we probably overestimate the short-term impacts of things, and we underestimate the long-term or the cause and effect of our financial decisions.
I think. I mean, what you're talking about here at the moment is very acute cases. You've gone in for surgery, and something's happened, and you can almost tell that outcome. What you don't see go through the medical negligence courts. Is people that, for example, have been going to a GP for 5 or 10 years, and something just doesn't feel right. And something they just don't feel that the GP has a good grasp on their health or things are going wrong all the time, and they've been misdiagnosed. Nothing that's led to perhaps serious consequences, but the word or the phrase that would spring up at that period of time would be to get a second opinion. I think so. Quite quickly people would actually go and get a second opinion, and it's usually a gut feeling. In those situations where people go, okay, something just doesn't feel right. We would encourage people to do the same thing with their money. If someone is advising you,
it doesn't feel
and it just
right.
doesn't. There's something that doesn't feel right, or it feels too good to be true, or you just get that feeling. And usually that feeling isn't just a one-off feeling either. No. It's usually, okay, we've met with them and we've got a funny feeling, and then met again with them, and we got the same sort of funny feeling. Something just doesn't sort of gel right with us. We would say at that point in time, get a second opinion. Now, we can't offer a medical second opinion. Otherwise, we would be.
Oh, mate, I can give an opinion about anything.
We would be before the medical negligence courts. We're not doctors. But we can offer a financial second opinion. So, look, if anyone out there listening is thinking, if that resonates with anyone listening, you may not even be under advisement. No, you might not even have an advisor. You might be just running your own plan and just thinking, I'm not too sure.
Like you have a couple come in and often say, we sort of think we're on the right track, but we don't know. And we've talked about this before, where often we have that meeting with people and go, no, you are, it's all good. And they go, oh, okay, well, that's all right. And I've talked about this before, where the dangerous thing about not knowing is that you don't know until it's too late. And that's, I guess, the point you're touching on there, is that if you're 10 years out from retirement and you're sort of not sure if you're doing everything you can or if this decision is going to work well for you, if you're not able to really extrapolate it in the future and go, okay, this is where I'm going to be in 10 years' time, is that actually am I happy with that, or do I need to make decisions differently now? It's definitely something that's worth looking at. Now, to elaborate a bit on that point as well, is that there's often not so much the counter to that, but sometimes you might have a situation where you're having to make changes to your financial life, or you're making choices that are painful in the short term but that are good in the long term. And so again, the similar analogy to the health one there is that if your diet has been unhealthy for 30 years and you change your diet to healthy food, it actually doesn't taste good for quite a while. It takes a little while to get into the habit of eating healthy. And so it's sometimes hard to, and this is what I mean, the feedback loop thing. It's very interesting, because if you were doing something that was easy and comfortable, and in this example, if every week you were just, money came in, hit the bank account, and you just blew it every week, and you didn't give any thought to your future, and you didn't know what was going on with your retirement savings, and you didn't know how much you need or anything like that, that can be sort of comfortable week to week. And the feedback loop of if in any one week you go, actually, I'm going to be paid $200 into my super fund, or I'm going to get my latest statement from my super fund and have a look at how that's invested behind the scenes. Any one of those things, the short-term impact of that is sort of a bit of pain, and you go, it just sounds like a lot of work. I don't want to do that. I'd rather just watch Netflix. Or I'd rather take that $200 and go to the pub on the weekend. It's really hard, because some decisions that you make are short-term pain for long-term gain, and some of them are, as you touched on before, where something doesn't feel right, and you should be trusting your intuition. It's very hard to get that, to know in advance whether that is it uncomfortable because it's the personal trainer's yelling at me to run and I really don't want to and my lungs are burning, or is it this feels uncomfortable because the way my money's set up or the way that's invested, it isn't right, and there's something wrong there, and I need to make a change, but I just don't know what it is. It's often hard to know which boat you're in there. So I think, and I guess the only real way to know, and we were just discussing this a little while ago about in our game, when you do financial planning consistently for a long time, your brain starts to develop the ability to extrapolate out 10 years in the future with everything. And it's sort of every action is viewed, and sometimes this is not a healthy way to view the world, is that every action is viewed through a utilitarian view of, if I did this thing that I'm proposing to do this week, if I did this every week for the next 10 years, how would that impact my retirement, and would that be moving me towards where I need to be or away, and do I have enough of a buffer where I can afford to do it anyway? That sort of calculus is second nature, I think, only if you develop those reps as we have, and the only other way around that is to really sit down and go through each of your decisions that you're making and extrapolate out, where does that put me in 10 years' time, and is that moving me more in the... And you don't necessarily need to know the black and white answers here of, like I'm saying here, we've got spreadsheets and we build this into this, but if every action you take, you were just thinking, is this moving me closer to my goal or further away? Most people, you could sort of work it out. Like, if I'm putting more money in my super fund every week, that's probably going to be a good thing for my retirement savings. Now, how much do I need to put in, and should I be putting more or less? Maybe that takes a bit more calculation, but more super contributions is going to put me in a better situation. That's a fairly simple feedback loop, you'd say there. The other one that I was thinking about with this that gets a bit trickier, I'm sort of jumping all over the place, sorry mate, but we've talked about this before with how you invest your money. Sometimes when you invest your money and in a year's time the balance has dropped, sometimes it's because you made a mistake, and sometimes it's just because that's a naturally occurring part of the cycle. And that's another one of those things that if you're not comfortable and confident in your long-term planning, it's easy to overreact to things that aren't really a problem and underreact to things that really are a problem.
Yeah. Second opinion is the conclusion to this movie, Dallas.
Is it? Because I'm glad you've got this. Often happens where I'll just spout about something for 10 minutes, not just on the podcast, just in general. I'll spout about something for 10 minutes and you'll go, that's the answer to that.
If it doesn't feel right, and either you're seeing a professional advisor now or you're not, and you're running your own scenario, if it just doesn't feel right or you want a second opinion, take the second opinion. And look, we certainly offer that second opinion. That 1 hour Zoom meeting, it's got a low invasiveness level in terms of you're in your own home or you're in your own office. We're in our office. We talk about things on the higher level, and we look at where you're looking to head to and why you should be looking to head there, and some of the higher level things that you could be doing if you're not taking advantage of everything. Within an hour, we can work out whether there's some changes that you should or could make. And we actually we leave it in your court at that point in time. So like, there's certainly no pressure to become a client of ours. So if you'd like to take that up at no cost nor obligation, get in contact with us at podcast@mo50.com.au.
Yeah, I think that probably is the takeaway from today, because as you say, there is, because we do this, we've seen this movie 1,000 times. You know, we have not only have we seen a lot of different. We've talked about this before, the length and the breadth of the experiences, that we've seen a lot of different people in a similar situation, and we've also seen people who were in this situation 10 years ago and now they're in this situation, and then someone who's 10 years in front of them, if that makes sense. So you can sort of, that feedback loop is, we've kind of got a lot of that in our head, because we're seeing, if you make this choice, I've got this client who's making this choice now, and I've got this client who's 10 years older who made that choice 10 years ago, and what's been the outcome for them, and how has that impacted their life? So yeah, I think you're probably right. There's really no, other than trying to really think deeply about your financial decisions. And I guess, so that's, for me, the two takeaways are really trying to think about the long-term impact of your choices and of those day-to-day and week-to-week decisions that you make. And as you say, if it doesn't feel right, if it's not comfortable, if you're not 100% confident that you are doing everything that you can be doing, or that you're doing everything right, feel free to get in touch.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Money Over 50 podcast with Money Over 50 Financial Advisors. We look forward to catching up again soon.